Well, good morning, viewers. Today we're working on a 2009 Silverado Hybrid. That's the early EV offering that GM had in a pickup truck. And we got a problem with the transfer case, the service transfer case message on the dash. We've got a code C0321-04 for the lock solenoid, which is this part right in here, being an open circuit or high resistance. I put an ohmmeter across pins B and C of the encoder motor, and it's 15 ohms, so it's not open. But pin B is ignition power, battery power, and as you can see, I've only got 7.9 volts on the red wire. Let's make sure I got a good ground here. And of course, if I put a test light in there, it doesn't light a test light at all. So let's look at the electrical circuit again. So according to this, it comes from A on the previous diagram. And A on the previous diagram comes from the TREC fuse. Fuse number 67, it looks, for gas. Now there is a connector in between, and that could be green. Connector 106, X106. So we're going to check that fuse first, make sure it's not corroded. So on the gas application, it's fuse 67, which is a J-case fuse. It's that one right there. And it has a little window over it, so we'll have to pop it out and have a look at it. But it looks okay visually, but we're going to test it. So I popped the cap off the fuse and I tested for power with a test light on both sides of the fuse, and it lights. So I think that connector down there is the X106. We're going to investigate that, but I'm going to double check the connector view. So it's actually X109, and it's pin A4, so it's a fairly big connector, and that's a red and black wire. I'm just writing this down. Let's go see if we can find out where X109 lives. Connector, component locations. X109. Diesel 6.2 4.8 engine harness. Let's go to the master electrical component location. I got to go all the way down to X. Hyperlinks would be nice. I don't even think they have them on OE software. You know, Ford and Chrysler do, but maybe GM does too. X109. This has the NQH 40 cavities, engine harness except diesel on left side of engine below the fuse block. Connector views. Oh, brother. Except diesel. Let's try this one. So that's what it looks like. Now I'm going to have a look in the engine bay. So that connector I looked at was except HP2, which is hybrid, and this one's hybrid. So I think it's except diesel with NQF, NQH, and HP2 except late production. I don't know how we know if it's got late production or not, but except late production with 4.8, 5.3. This has got the 6 liter. So let's see, it's black. It's a 40-pin latched connector. And I think I said it was an A4. Circuit 1342. Well, so that's 1342, battery positive voltage, NQH. Okay, so it's a black connector, 40 pins. Now I'm looking at the vehicle, and there are several connectors in that area. There's one here, but I don't think that's it. And there's one right underneath here. That could be it. Oh well, we'll see if we can get it out. Well, this is not pleasant. I think this might be the connector. I had to take the fuse panel out, which was a good idea anyways, because these fuse panels tend to corrode, but it looks pristine, this thing. I think this is the connector. I'm just printing off a connector view, trying to identify it. But this module of some kind here is part of the brake system is different on this. So the brake master cylinder is bigger and it's in the way. I might have to take this cover off to get at this connector, but I'm going to see if this is the connector in question. It doesn't look corroded from the outside. So that is the connector. This is A1, 2, 3 is missing. 4 is the red black wire with the power to it, and that's one of the other transfer case circuits, that tan wire. I think that's the actual solenoid circuit. Let's see. A5 is the motor control. But one of these wires will be for the solenoid. But A4 is battery positive. Looks like it should be live all the time. I got to put the fuse panel back in and reconnect the battery. But I'm going to take this connector apart and look at the inside of it. So with the fuse panel reinstalled, make sure I got power. Back pinning that wire coming out of there, and then you can see we have power there. And I'm sure that's from that fuse. I'm going to pull that fuse just to make 100% certain we're on the right circuit. We have no power there. That is definitely the right circuit. So somewhere between here and the transfer case is the wire is compromised. It runs, looks like it runs into this harness here and up over the top of the engine. Maybe we should pull that cover off and see if there's any rodent activity or something. Where'd that little cap go? Oh, there it is. Okay. Let's pull that cover off. Maybe we'll get lucky. You got to watch this spot right here on the harness where this loom rubs. Isn't worn through, but it's been rubbing on this stud here. There's supposed to be a little, actually the standoff is right here. That's supposed to be stuck on that stud. Well, I'm going to raise it up and look along the back of the transmission and transfer case and see if there's anything obvious, but I think this is the wiring harness running down here. Yeah. Well, we don't need the key on to test that because it's live all the time. So I got the voltmeter connected to pin B, which is the red-black wire, and the transfer case ground. And I'm graphing 6.25 volts. Now I'm going to set up this camera so it's stationary. So I'm going to manipulate the harness just in front of the transfer case. I'm flexing the harness. So the wires are compromised just in front of the transfer case. Why would they be compromised? Oh, there's a metal bracket right there. I'll have to pull this harness down and see if we can... I'll show you what I'm looking at here. That metal bracket right there. You can see the gray push pin beside it. That's the harness I was moving. So I'm going to see if I can pull that harness down inside the engine or inside under the vehicle here. As I said, this is live all the time, so we don't need to have the key on. So some of you will remember the Friendly Giant. Look up. Way up. There's Rusty. So that harness was rubbing on the transmission shift cable. So maybe I can fix it. So there's with the tape pulled off of it, you can see the red wire compromised, but that beige wire right next to it is also compromised. So there's the problem with running an overlay wire. You'd run a new red wire and then that gray wire would fail several months later because it's still corroded or it's compromised. So let's splice these wires back together. So I got the wires spliced, soldered and sealed with heat shrink. You can see it lights a 2057 or 3057 bulb now. So we're going to put it back together, put some dielectric grease on the connector seals, and wish I'd manipulated that harness before I went to all the trouble looking under that fuse panel. So let's see if it works. Seems to. We still got a service break message. I'm not sure if that's related to the stored codes or there was a pressure code of some kind in there. So we're going to have a look at that now. The check engine light is on because of an evap vent solenoid. The vent solenoid is open. I've already diagnosed that. But the four-wheel drive works. I'm going to put a battery charger on this. So we're going to go into the ABS and see what codes is in there. Because there was let's see if there's any current codes. Regenerative axle pressure sensor short to battery, current DTC, C0321. It's had that code before. But the other code's related to the ABS. I'm going to do a network code clear. Oh, my battery charger is not working. We'll pick up when we get to the end of this network code clear. Oh, that was fast. Well, I know the engine code will be back for the open vent solenoid, because I've already diagnosed that. P0449, it needs a vent solenoid. Let's go back into the ABS and see if that code is present still. I wonder if that turns on any warning messages. It says warning indicator requested. So here's the diagnostic trouble code C0321, and it is a failure mode 01. Regenerative axle pressure sensor short to battery. So it says the electronic brake control module uses inputs from the regenerative axle pressure sensor for more accurate control during a brake and vehicle stability enhancement system event. The regenerative axle pressure sensor is internal to the brake pressure modulator valve assembly. Well, I'm not liking that. Conditions for settings is C012C. Internal sensor failure is detected. Well, I bet you it's one of those. Clear the codes. If it comes back, replace the module. Let's see what it says. Using a scan tool, perform a relearn. If set, replace the brake pressure modulator valve assembly. I like that. If it's set, replace the brake pressure modulator valve assembly. If the DTC resets, replace the EBCM. So they're not even sure. The manufacturer is firing the parts. So they changed the hydraulic unit first, which is a major pain in the ass because you got to undo all of the brake lines. And this is going to be unique because it's a hybrid. Wow. It's a much bigger assembly. Well, I don't think he's going to fix that. He was worried about the four-wheel drive, and that's working. He did ask me to check the AC, but I'm going to call him and see if he wants me to change that vent solenoid.